verses 4 through 10. As you come to him, the living stone, rejected by humans, but chosen by God and precious to him, you also, like living stones, are being built into a spiritual house, to be a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. For in Scripture it says, "See, I lay a stone in Zion, a chosen and precious cornerstone, and the one who trusts in him will never be put to shame." Now to you who believe this stone is precious, but to those who do not believe, the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone, and a stone that causes people to stumble, and a rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they disobey the message, which is also what they were destined for. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy.
Let's all stand together, sing. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul.
With my soul.
It is well. It is well with my soul. My sin, oh the bliss of this glorious thought. My sin, not in part, but the whole, is nailed to the cross, and I bear it no more. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, oh my soul. It is well with my soul.
With my soul.
It is well. It is well with my soul. And Lord, haste the day when the faith shall be sought, the clouds be rolled back as a scroll, the trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul.
With my soul.
It is well. It is well with my soul. Please be seated.
It's always great to have Randall and Pam with us, and we want to take advantage of them. Use them. Every time we have the opportunity. So thank you, Randall, for leading us this morning. Guys, if you missed the retreat, you missed something that was really worth being at. We probably had about twice the number that we usually have. I don't know that it was because of the choice of speaker or if it was because we didn't have to sleep on those bunks in sleeping bags up in, the Indio Hills. But whatever the reason was, we had, I think somebody said about 65, 70 Friday night, and then it was a little bit less yesterday probably, but it was really, really good. Jeff did a great job giving us some visuals about being holy men. So guys, what you believe, behave, affects how you behave, okay? All right. And do you remember that Greek word, tapenophrosyne? Suppressing your natural inclinations. And you remember those four guys standing up here, you know? Sin begins with thinking about it, then rationalizing it, then doing it, and then defending it, right? I mean, aren't those visuals stuck in your head? Now, I'd almost have to get Matthew 5 up here to go through the 8 steps in the Beatitudes that he came up with, but it starts with, I need you, right? And it goes on to being quick to apologize. I'm sorry, you know. And then it goes on to a number of other things, among which is, I've forgiven you already, right? And so there was just some really great visuals that Jeff gave us. And so if you missed it, you missed something really, really worthwhile. And I know that those of us who were here would share it, would say that that was true. We have come in our study of 1 Peter to the text that is the foundation for this particular image. I've called the series Rock Solid because Peter keeps coming back to this theme of a rock. And we've come to, I think, the pivotal text about the rock today that gives rise to all of the other images that Peter uses. It's 1 Peter 2, verses 4 through 10. Young couple, as often young couples do, didn't have much money, so they started out by buying a house that needed a little work. And their idea was that they would do their work and they'd fix it up, and you know, they would have a nice place, fairly inexpensive, to live. Well, the wife's father was a building contractor, and the son really didn't know much about what he was doing, but he kind of wanted to impress his father-in-law with the fact that he wasn't a klutz. So he decided, as most of us do, to start out with the cosmetic stuff. And so he decided he was going to paint a couple of rooms. So father-in-law was coming over for dinner that evening, so he decided he'd spend the day painting those 2 rooms. He painted them. Father-in-law shows up, and son-in-law's not anywhere to be found. They go find him. He's laying in one of the rooms, and he's laying there passed out. He's got on a ski jacket and an overcoat. And they say, what's going on? He said, I wanted to show you that I'm not incompetent, I'm not a klutz, and so I wanted to paint these rooms and make them look really good for you. And the father-in-law says, okay, I get that, but why are you dressed this way? And he said, well, on the can it says, for best results, use 2 coats. Maybe he should have spent a little time watching some television. This show has been on for 36 seasons. I remember Bob Vila. Remember him? Been on for 36 seasons, and about the only thing I get out of it is I don't want to do any of the stuff these guys do. This old house. Now, I called the sermon This Old House because many of you talk to me occasionally about that couple in Waco that fixes houses, right? That repairs houses and gets them in shape. But somehow I didn't think a sermon on the church should be called Fixer Upper. Maybe it could be, I don't know. But we're not talking about the reality. We're talking about what God's design is for the church. And this is a house that's built by God. Look at verses 4, 5, and 6. As you come to him, the living stone rejected by humans but chosen by God and precious to him, you also, like living stones, are being built into a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. For in Scripture it says, "See, I lay a stone in Zion, a chosen and precious cornerstone, and the one who trusts in him will never be put to shame." I am so grateful that Bob and Lynn Packer invited me to join them on a trip to Israel in 2014. I'm so glad that Mary encouraged me to go. It's never been something she wanted to do, but she encouraged me to go. And I'm glad that that happened, because I came back with a greater understanding of and appreciation of many of the things I read in the New Testament, and the Old Testament too, for that matter. One of the things you notice when you're in Israel, and in particular in Jerusalem, is that everything's built of stone. They don't have a lot of timber. And so they don't build houses like we build. You know, we lay a concrete foundation and we put some, framework up around it, and then we slap some lumber or some brick or some stucco on the outside of it. That's the way we build houses. That's not the way they build them. And it's certainly not the way they built them back in the first century when this particular text is set. It's all built out of stone. And so when Peter talks about this building and talks about this cornerstone, that's going to be significant. But he uses a kind of an oxymoron, a statement that just doesn't really make much sense. He talks about a living rock. Do you guys remember this? Back when I was younger, there was this craze, the pet rock fad, started by a fellow named Gary Dahl in 1975. It only lasted about 6 months, but we all remember it. He painted a smile on a rock. He put it in a cardboard crate. He advertised it as the best pet you could possibly want, because you don't have to feed it, you don't have to clean up after it, you don't have to groom it. But it's a rock. It doesn't have any life whatsoever. I guess the thing I could say is it's not going to drop a ball at my feet and want me to play with it, But it's a rock. And yet that pet rock idea made him a multimillionaire. He just died in 2015. Well, that's the image that Peter uses of a living rock just doesn't seem to fit our concept of building, a construction. Maybe you've seen churches with something like this, Jesus Christ, the chief cornerstone. But we don't understand what a cornerstone is. That's really not a cornerstone. Did you know that? It's not really a cornerstone. That's cosmetic. You could take a chisel and you could chisel that thing out, and the building's going to be just fine. Because they built that building like we build buildings. They built a frame construction and they put stuff around the outside of it. And one of the things they put around outside was this decoration that says Jesus Christ, the chief cornerstone. But that's not what a cornerstone really is. But how can you say a cornerstone is alive? Well, the rock Peter's speaking of here has all the strength and solidarity of a rock. Incidentally, what was Peter's name? What did it mean? It meant rock. But the rock is alive because the rock is Jesus Christ, and he died and was raised from the dead. In the book of Revelation, he says this, "I am he who lives and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore." One of the texts that Jeff talked about this weekend comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4. When Paul talks about Israel in the Exodus going through the desert, and he talks about God's provision for them, one of the things